You're listening to What Do You Know with Scott and Arnie, and it's our premiere episode.
Well, I'm very happy to be here with you, Scott, on this first show. You're my friend. You're a media guru. And as we talked about creating the show, we made a vow and a promise to each other that we would try to make the show as interesting as we can to our audience so that hopefully we can keep their attention going and their loyalty. We want to discipline ourselves during the course of the shows to not fall into the trap, the easy trap of the easy pickings. We're not going to talk about Donald Trump. We're not going to talk about Ben Carson. We're not going to do with all of the. We're not going to talk about Hillary.
Everyone's talking about that. Why do we?
Everybody's, and we don't want to fall into that trap. I
agree.
There's enough interesting things going on, and there's enough important things going on that we ought to spend time focusing on those things, like the Kardashians, for example. No matter what online media source I look at, there's always a story about the Kardashians, and we're going to try to avoid that. So I'm going to hold you. I want us to take an oath, like the Knights of the Templar, that we're not going to fall into the trap of talking about what everybody else is talking about.
I love that.
And so we're going to try to make it interesting. And we got a couple of interesting guests we're going to talk to on the first show today. We have Darko Butorac, who's the maestro of the Missoula Symphony.
6'5".
6'5". Plus, he's got the coolest name.
Darko.
I'm going to find out how he got the name. It's got to be a made-up name, right? It can't be a real name.
If that's his made-up name, what's his real name?
Yeah, we want to find that out. This is important stuff. This is what inquisitive minds want to know.
Okay.
And then we're going to call up Peter Goltz, who's the former head of National Transportation Safety Board.
Okay.
And Peter is an expert commentator, been on CNN, Fox News, all the time. When there's a disaster of some kind in the transportation industry, Peter comes on. And in future shows, we don't have a current disaster going on. But I think we're going to talk to him about what is the state of airports.
Knocking on wood, by the way.
Yeah, knock on wood. What's the state of airports and airlines in America today? I just heard a horrific story, not just about the experience on the airline, but they're getting to be like hospitals. They're unbundling their fees to the extent that one of my colleagues just flew yesterday, and they had to pay for a boarding pass.
Are you
kidding me? They actually had to pay for a boarding pass.
Why would you have to pay for a boarding pass?
Because you weren't smart enough to print it up ahead of time. We're going to punish you. We're going to punish you.
How much did he have to pay for a boarding pass?
$3, $4 to print up a boarding pass.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you. And I know that the Ryanair chairman's talked about charging to use bathrooms on airplanes. So things have gotten way out of hand.
I'm going to go broke if that happens.
Yeah, for sure. We won't be able to drink that water and all that special stuff on the plane because you're going to be limited to the bathroom use. But we're going to talk to Peter a little bit about what's going on with airlines and airports, and gas prices, oil prices, jet fuel is very low right now, and prices keep going up through this magical technique of unbundling everything. So we're gonna talk about that.
This sounds like we're gonna have a great show, our first premiere show.
Yeah, and there's lots of other things that are going on that are interesting. I mean, there's been a recent election in Canada,
right?
And we have a new prime minister in Canada, who kind of looks, by the way, if you've taken a look at Justin Trudeau, he looks like Eric Bana. Do you remember Eric
sure,
Bana?
I know Eric
he
Bana.
was in he was in a number of
the
movies.
Hulk.
Well, it was one of three Hulks. I'm going to later on ask you who the other two Hulks were.
Okay,
but it was one of three Hulks. He was in Troy. He was in Munich. He's been a lot. He kind of looks like him. But the most interesting thing to me about the Canadian elections was they were lamenting that this year was the longest election cycle they've ever had in Canada's history, and it went 87 days.
Why so long?
Yeah, why so? We go for like 4 years, right? I mean, as soon as the president gets elected, we're already speculating about who the next person is. We don't even have an election here in the United States for another year.
So why was Trudeau an upset? What was tell me about this. Let me understand.
Well, first of all, just to drop back, it always has been 37 days is the standard election time. They went to 87 this time because Stephen Harper, the sitting prime minister, I think needed more time to try to, or he thought he needed more time to rebuff the Liberal challenge of Trudeau.
Okay.
I think it was a big upset because he was promising many of the things that you hear being promised in the United States by Liberals here. He was promising work on climate change, taxing the 1%, the top 1%, and giving middle-class real tax cuts. He was talking about every middle-class family, and I think in Canada it's between $40,000 and $80,000 a year, will get a check every month for $550.
Wow.
So $6,000 a year actual cut to spend in the economy. They were talking about infrastructure improvements. Now, I know it's a country of only 35 million, and we have 319
Yeah, but he's
people
channeling
here.
Bernie Sanders.
He's kind of channeling Bernie. And by the way, I was thinking the other night about Bernie.
Okay.
He's driving me crazy. Trudeau looks like Eric Bana, but Bernie sounded like somebody. And I was racking my brain, and I realized who he sounded like. He sounds like Larry David playing George Steinbrenner on Seinfeld. And then Saturday Night Live, they had, it was like I predicted it in my dream, in my sleep. They had Larry David playing Bernie Sanders. And he was perfect.
We got to post that to our Facebook page. You're absolutely right. He did. He looked like him. He sounded like him.
And he has that same staccato, blunt answer.
Yeah, but I also think he's channeling a little bit of Jackie Mason.
Well, yeah. He's a Brooklyn-born, Jewish guy, and he's channeling all that stuff. That's what he grew up. That's what he grew up with, and that's who he is. And I thought that was interesting. But 87 days. We do it for years. 2 years. Well, the campaign's been going on for 6-8 months now, but with Trump and Ben Carson and Hillary and all of that. And they were lamenting 87 days. Federally funded, government funded in Canada elections. So I thought that was a good comparison to what we have going on here.
So if I'm our first show, we're going to be talking to Darko first, right, about the Missoula Symphony and get a little deeper on what's going on there.
Yes,
we're then going to speak to the gentleman who used to head up the NTSB.
Right.
Correct?
And we're going to find out, what do they know?
We're going to find out what do they know, because I think we can share some good information with our audience. So wrapping up the Canadian elections for a second, tell me, so with Trudeau in place right now, when does he take office, and when does this all actually,
Well, as you know, in Canada, they elect a party. You vote for a party, not a candidate, and then the party chooses their leader. But it's usually preordained because they usually have already elected their leader, as they do in the United Kingdom. This will all be wrapping up. The early part of November, and he'll be the new prime minister. They had Stephen Harper for 10 years,
right? And
now they're moving in, and we'll get a glimpse of what it looks like to have a liberal leader across the border, and how these policies unfold. We'll have a year lead time before our election comes up, and we'll see how symbiotic those these two things can be.
So in that year, how does he work with Obama?
Well, I think he's going to try to. I think heal some of the wounds. I think Harper and Obama did not have a great relationship,
right?
And I think that he's going to reach out immediately once he's confirmed, and he's going to probably carry on in his father's tradition. His father was the very popular leader who died about 15 years ago, and
Pierre Trudeau,
yes.
Pierre Elliott Trudeau, shares a name with you.
Yes.
All right. Well, let me tell you, you're listening to What Do You Know with Scott and Arnie, and when we come back, we're going to be speaking with Darko from the Missoula Symphony. All right, we're back with What Do You Know with Darko Butorac. Welcome, Darko, to the program.
Great to be with you guys.
So here's the first question, Darko. I have a sucky name. My first name is Arnold. When I was growing up as a kid, there was a TV show called Green Acres, and they had a pig on that show, and that ruined my life until I was, old enough to box. Scott, our co-host here, has a great name until Dr. Evil's son was named Scott, and he's been picked on. How did you get such a cool name? Is that your real name? Is this a made-up name? Is this a theatrical name? Or is the maestro's real name Darko?
It's completely my real name. I was born abroad. I was born in what was then Yugoslavia, now Serbia, and this wasn't, let's say, a very popular name, but it wasn't uncommon. But certainly, when you come over to the States as a kid, there were, let's say, a few difficulties.
Yeah, but now as an adult, it's one of the...
now as an adult, it's great. Yeah, exactly. I paid my dues time after time. You know what I mean?
How long have you been in the United States, Darko?
I've lived in the States most of my life, since I was 10 years old. So, yeah.
Where are we calling you?
I am American, and tell me again.
Are we calling you in New York or some other urban area where the sirens are going off?
Okay.
Where are you?
I'm in New York. Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's a familiar sound.
That's a familiar sound. As soon as I heard that, I realized that you were wandering the streets of Manhattan, and so we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. So tell me, how did the maestro end up in Missoula, Montana? What's the story behind that, and why do we have a symphony here? And does it stimulate you? Does it give you a great sense of purpose and motivation and direction?
In a field like mine, you don't really get to choose what city you live in. Basically, one town has one job. That's it. And very few of them open up during any given year. And so I was lucky the year I was looking for a job that Missoula was available, and I applied, and I won this, American Idol-like competition. Even, for Missoula is not a huge orchestra, but even that job had almost 200 applications.
That's unbelievable.
And
what year? What year are we talking about, Darko?
This was in 2007.
Okay.
Or 2006 was the search, but 2007 was my first year as music director. And it's very inspiring. I think when you're in the arts, a close connection to nature definitely helps, and certainly Missoula gives me that very much.
Well, what's great about it is, as we followed your career, just because you're in a college town doesn't mean you can't work with other symphonies around the country. I saw recently, I think you work with Renee Fleming, in Florida. And that's phenomenal that you can have the opportunity to reach out and connect with other symphonies and with such leading opera stars as Renee. That must give you a great sense of flexibility and opportunity to do a variety of different things and still live in a great community like this.
No, it's definitely a privilege, and I look at it as all the other opportunities help me enrich the musical life in Missoula ultimately, because you work with somebody like Renee Fleming, your game goes to the next level immediately.
Sure. And
once it goes up, it doesn't go back down.
Well, that's good. So how does our symphony compare? I mean, are you able to attract and keep quality musicians and keep our symphony at a level that is satisfying for you? It's a challenge in, let's say, the Northern Rockies, because our populations are relatively low. I think all of Montana has less people than like 2 blocks from New York, it seems like. Yeah,
that's true.
Which is actually a good thing, but yeah. As far as musicians, we don't have deep pools of musicians, but what's great about it is that people love making music, and they come to rehearsals and they're excited to work on, in some of this repertoire, and they bring their best game forward. And ultimately, my job as music director is not to make the same quality of music everywhere, but to bring out the best in each ensemble. That's what's really important.
Well, that's good.
And that's what I strive to do in Missoula. And I think, we've had great success with the orchestra, with the audience recognizing that the musicians are really excited to do what they're doing. And that's been very successful for us.
So what's coming up that's exciting for you? What are you looking forward to?
Well, our next show in Missoula is really fun. I get to do one of my favorite pieces. When I was growing up, there was a record kicking around the house of the Beethoven Violin Concerto, which is maybe one of the top works written for the violin ever in the history of its existence. And I've actually never had a chance to work on this piece up until this week. So I'm very excited about that. That's our next concert coming up in November. It will be 7th and 8th of November on the weekend. And we're welcoming a guest soloist who's fantastic. His name is Yuri Becker. And just really excited to get my hands into the piece.
Well, that's very cool. And because of the schedule of the seasons, you can actually conduct other symphonies. For example, like your Tallahassee. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, so I fly back between Tallahassee and Montana about once a month on average. And yes, I do a concert there. I do a concert in Missoula, and spend a lot of time in the air, I guess.
Hey, Darko, just by way of background, tell us how you got into conducting in music. What's the upbringing, and what was that first spark that got you on this great path?
Well, one of the benefits I was surrounded by a fantastic musical education system growing up in Seattle. And I started playing cello and early on as a kid, and had an opportunity to be in a really great orchestra already in my high school. Like a high school class was an orchestra class, which was a 90-piece ensemble, and we did all this standard repertoire.
Wow.
And so, you know, as a junior one time, and kind of almost as a joke, I started conducting. I had an opportunity to conduct a little bit, and the bug bit me. And it's a phenomenal feeling. You stretch your arm out, and you give people the illusion that you're creating something out of nothing. It's the closest thing you come to magic in real life, you know.
So you're the David Copperfield of the music
sound world.
Yes.
I actually, I have a follow-up question to you. So you
Sure.
came to the fork in the road, and it was either music, but looking at your stature, you're 6'5". Wasn't anyone trying to encourage you to go into sports, or is that something that you just?
No, I was a good geeky kid in high school. I did play basketball. I love playing basketball. I still love playing basketball, but. No, I was never a big, a hugely active sports person. I just did it for fun.
Okay. Because Arnie and I are big basketball fans. We're big Knick fans, and so we're always looking for a power forward or a good shooting guard.
That's right. If you can shoot, there's a place for you in our lives.
Shoot, no, but my elbows are really sharp, so I make it up.
Good. D. We need a guy in D.
So you spend your career focused on symphony but in your personal life, what kind of music do you listen to? Do you focus on symphony, or do you try to do change up and have other musical interests that give you inspiration and also give you a break from what you're focused on?
I'm pretty open-minded with music as long as it's good. And what's difficult, I have to say, is we're often surrounded by not very good music these days. But every once in a while I'll hear something on the radio that I really do like, or I'll hear a band just in passing wherever I am in the world, and
give us
really
some names. Can you give us some names?
Yeah, give us some names so we can start listening to some good music.
Yeah, I trust
I'm
your
not
opinion.
saying Taylor Swift, okay?
Don't say that. No.
Right.
And Kanye West, you're not saying Kanye West either, I'm sure.
No. I'll tell you one local thing I really, really like to go and catch them is I love Reverend Slanky when they play in town.
Oh, good.
I think their shows have fantastic energy, and a bunch of them played in my orchestra at some point or other. Okay, so there's a funk band, but
that's a good tip.
They're so into it, and they bring a lot of heart to the stage, and I love catching them whenever I have a chance to do that in Missoula. But it's not something I seek out actively. I think after you spend your whole day either studying or being around music, you appreciate silence once in a while too.
I'm sure.
You grew up in Seattle, you said?
As from basically middle school age on, I was in Seattle. I grew up originally in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, Serbia.
Okay, but you grew up in Seattle at a pretty important time, I would think, in terms of music.
Yes, I was. Yes, and unfortunately, I couldn't stand grunge.
Okay, well, yeah, he had Kurt Cobain.
I missed out. I was completely out of sync with the scene. It's really unfortunate because I do appreciate it now, but at the time, I missed out on the boat, I'm afraid.
Well, as you just alluded to, musical taste changes over time.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well,
actually, if I can interject, I think that's a beautiful thing you brought up about changing musical taste. I think number one thing for musical taste is if you just listen to it, if you're exposed to it, and if you do it. A lot of people ask about classical music is stuffy. Classical music is not stuffy. It's just music, period. There's no adjective before it. It's music.
Right.
It's how we perceive it that give it adjectives as they go on.
Well, I'm going to try to break Scott's addiction to the Grateful Dead. He listens to them over and over and over again.
Not true.
But no, if you are around something, familiarity in this case breeds respect and love. It really does.
Right.
And I can tell you, I had to conduct an atonal piece that I hated with every fiber of my being at one point in my life. And after doing it,
who was the composer?
It was Arnold Schoenberg. It's his famous Gare Lunaire. Yeah,
okay.
Not very popular music to the listeners out there, I can just tell you.
Right.
But after studying it for a whole month and being around it, I actually was whistling the tunes, very bad tunes, on the street.
Right.
It's really exposure breeds love. And so one thing that I'm really proud with Missoula Symphony is that the people we have managed to reach out to realize that, we're not stuffy people. We just love what we do. We love music. And we love the music we do. So
let me ask you this.
To share that.
Let me ask you this. If you had the chance to go listen to one symphony in the world just to sit in the audience, is there one in particular that you think, that you would want to travel to go listen to?
Probably Berlin Philharmonic. That's, the big kahuna on the scene.
Right.
Great orchestra, great tradition, great conductor.
Wow.
That's good to hear.
Hey, quick question. So in Missoula, a lot of young people are here. They're just, in terms of music education and families that are, where their children show a desire to, learn more about music. What do you think about our education system here as it relates to music, and what would you recommend a path that they might pursue if they're really interested?
I think it's great that we offer as much exposure to music early on in Missoula as we do. And certainly, there's plenty of programs around town for kids who are interested to do music, all kinds, from lessons at very, very high levels, but even, just simple things like instrument classes and things related to music, either dance classes or, the stuff that MCT does. There are lots of opportunities to do art related to music in Missoula. But as far as if there's any advice, my number one advice to anybody who wants to get serious about music is buy a metronome and turn it on.
So they can keep time.
Yes.
It's because when we study an instrument, we compensate difficulty by taking more time than we are able to. So it takes a lot of patience, and this is why I think music is such an important part of education. My family, we're expecting a child coming year. I want him to do music not because I'm a musician. I want him to do music to learn the art of patience. I want him to learn music, to see that some things you cannot just hack and click a button and you solve a problem. It's not possible to do with music.
You alluded to him. So do you know it's a boy?
It's a boy. Yeah.
So do you have a name picked out?
Not yet.
Not going to be Darko. Not going to be Darko 2.
Not Junior. No. No need.
We got about a minute left. Darko, anything you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap this segment up?
Just that, I love having new people come to the orchestra. We're blessed to have some really fine musicians and, to be able to produce concerts, which I think are way above what people expect when they come to Montana. I know that for sure. Every time we have a soloist come in and they hear us play, they're like, oh, wow, you guys are good. Yes, we are. We do good things in town.
Fantastic. And how would is there a website that they would be able to access to learn more about the symphony?
MissoulaSymphony.org. We got all kinds of cool programs. And speaking of education earlier, look out for a really cool announcement coming up in the new year. We're going to do some really neat stuff in the summer for kids. And I'm very much excited about that.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you, Darko. You've been
terrific. Great guest. And we look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Yep, you're listening
Absolutely. Thank you both.
Thank you, Darko. You listen to Darko Butorac on What Do You Know with Scott and Arnie.
Thank you.
We'll be back. Thank you, Darko.
Darko, that was great.
Thanks, guys. Sorry, I hope I wasn't rambling too much.
No, it was perfect.
But please edit at your discretion.
I think you did great. The only thing we're going to edit is us out. You did very well.
You're too kind.
Hey, take care.
Pleasure. I wish we could do it in person.
I wish so too.
Sorry that I'm traveling, but we'll make it happen next time, I hope.
Go have a pastrami sandwich for us, will you?
Definitely, gladly.
Take care.
Bye-bye, Darko.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.